Hello and welcome to Brick Speak. In today's episode, we will cover Chapter 9 of the prescribed book Operation in Jammu and Kashmir. This chapter covers the activities of Indian Army from February to May 1948. While Indian forces were securing Naushera and recapturing Jangad, events in the Handwara-Titwal sector took a dangerous turn in early 1948. Enemy incursions from the west threatened Srinagar. Though repelled back from Handwara and Titwal, a large-scale attack was launched on 7th February. This map shows all the routes that were taken by the tribals to capture Srinagar. As you see, Srinagar is represented by a star with a red outline. The routes that Pakistan Army had planned for the raiders have been numbered from 1 to 8. Very briefly, number 1 started from Brussels bypass coming on to Zozila. Aim was to address Srinagar from the east. Route number 2, again from Brussels bypass coming on to Gurez, on to Rajdan Pass, coming down at Sopor, Bandipur, and to Srinagar. The third we will talk about is the route from Farkia Gali, coming on to Handwara, joining at Sopor, Sangrama, on to Srinagar. Route 4, 5, 6, and 7 were in the Jammu division. They all cross Punch onto Uri, thereafter to Baramulla and concentrate at Srinagar. Route number 8 that has been marked was primarily to cut off Indian Army reinforcement coming from the rest of the India and entering into state of J&K. To isolate and win this battleground of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. This is the Google image of the area where the battle took place. You can see Farkia Gali on to Trigam, thereafter is Kupwara, Drugmula, and Handwara. Via Sopor, it comes and joins at a location near Baramulla called Sangrama. From Sangrama on to Patan and to Srinagar. So today we will be concentrating our talk in and around Handwara and Trigam sector. This is another representation of the roads that were leading to Srinagar from Titwal to Nastachung Pass on to Handwara, coming to Sopor, Baramulla, and to Srinagar. From Domel, one road goes to Muzaffarabad, the other one comes along Jhelum River onwards to Baramulla and then to Srinagar. Pay attention to where Bandipur is located. We will talk about it slightly later. A mass invasion entered the valley through Farkia Gali. They surprised the Kashmir militia which were deployed at Tragam and persuaded stroke threatened them to switch sides. The attack focused on small state force garrison at Shulur, just south of Trigam, forcing them to retreat. The entire Trigam valley fell to the invaders, clearing the path to Handwara, Sopor, and eventually Srinagar. Only one Sikh, that too less a company which was at Baramulla, was available to counter this developing threat. Kal Harbakh Singh was the CO. He was ordered to deal with the threat. He was to link up with armored cars of 7th Cavalry at road junction 11 kilometers from Baramulla early on 8th February 1948. Colonel Harbakh Singh rode ahead in a jeep to coordinate. He outlined three actions: send a platoon to Sopore and secure it, advance to Handwara and establish firm base, send a patrol to Handwara to gather intelligence. The main convoy left for the junction by 0400 hours but had to wait for armored car until 0600 hours. Representatives of National Conference, DP Dhar and Nazir joined the convoy for civil liaison. Sopore was reached and cleared. A patrol went to Handwara and returned at 1800 hours. A defensive patrol was sent towards Wadapur. Now, Wadapur is marked with a red triangle with a purpose because there was a bridge which both Indian Army and the raiders were trying to occupy. So it was the race to capture this bridge. Eventually, the enemy forces managed to capture the bridge and therefore deny the use of bridge to the Indian Army. The enemy covering parties held strategic hills and delayed the Indian advance. Though Indian reached Vadapur first, the bridge was already lost to the enemy. They managed to retrieve some equipment but could not prevent the retreat to the enemy to Magam and Kopwara. Early March, enemy started sniping again. Defensive posts were established by 161 Brigade at Lach, Nagri and Wadapur. Look at these locations in the adjoining map. On 22nd March, 7 Sikh was ordered to capture Pathardar, from where the enemy was getting regular reinforcement and also some logistic support. Shulur, that I had mentioned earlier, was recaptured by Charlie Company 7 Sikh and Gurkha Battalion on 30th of March 1948. There was a reorganization that was carried out and an offensive towards Titwal was planned in May 1948. Aerial recce was carried out over Handwara, Titwal, Bandipura, and now 77 Para Brigade took over the responsibility of Handwara sector from 161 Infantry Brigade. 18th of May was decided as the D-Day for offensive. 163 Brigade was still involved as they had to stage a diversionary attack along Uri Domel Road. Please refer to the map that I had shown earlier. On 16th and 17th of May, one Madras and one Jammu and Kashmir militia had arrived covertly at Handwara for the offensive plan from 18th to 20th of May 1948. It was estimated that approximately 6,150 irregulars, which included tribals mainly from Swats and Mysore, along with Pak Army, were present. They were distributed all over Tregam and Handwara sector. The tribal relied on scattered posts and lacked centralized communication. Hence, Indian Army decided to launch surprise encirclement of the enemy to sever communication lines and break morale, and simultaneously carry out offensive from Uri as well as Handwara sectors. All movement were carried out at night to avoid air and ground observation. Supplies and porters were brought from Sopore because it was felt that there are enough enemy agents which are lurking in Handwara. Troops assembled at Nala near Petadar just before the launch. A total wireless blackout was enforced and only oral orders were passed to maintain operational secrecy. The operational elements which were involved in the entire battle were in the Handwara front, three Royal Garhwal rifle, which included two companies of Kupwara, rest to Petadar, one Sikh and one Madras, which was in reserve, first Jammu and Kashmir militia platoon, who primarily acted as guide, and one field battery of artillery. Uri Front was the responsibility of 161 Infantry Brigade, primarily to plan an offensive via Uri Domel Road. Alpha Squadron of 7 Cavalry, 31 and 433 field batteries of Royal Indian Artillery and field engineers were in support. Spitfires were the fighter aircraft which were providing close air support from Jammu. Prior to the attack, an analysis was carried out of the enemy weaknesses. This included that enemy feared attacks at night and on rear communication line. Their strength was large but scattered. They were not expected to resist strongly when they were surprised. Therefore, Indian Army used night marches, weak enemy flanks were attacked, and ridges were exploited. Difficult terrain needed the enemy to be self sufficient, which they did not show that much of restraint and decided to withdraw at the first possible setback. It was appreciated that Indian Army would need four battalions, which included one for flank security, to successfully evict enemy from Trigam and Handwara sector. What were the success factors which led to Indian Army meeting their objective? It was ability to mobilize rapidly, carry out night operations, use of terrain knowledge, and decentralized patrolling. At strategic level, we were able to coordinate two front offensive planning, thereby effectively using deception and diversion. Pack transport, ability to conceal additional troops, and good coordination with civilian resulted in good logistic plan. Cooperation with National Conference was of use and enemy was demoralized due to quick movement and losses inflicted on the enemy. The Handwara operations of 1948 stand as a pivotal chapter in the broader military campaign to stabilize the Kashmir Valley during one of the most critical period following India's independence. Facing a formidable and fast-moving enemy composed of raiders and irregular forces backed by Pakistan, the Indian Army exhibited remarkable agility, resilience, and coordination in reversing the tide of enemy advances and reclaiming lost ground. One of the most commendable achievements was the rapid mobilization and operational response by one Sikh, which prevented the enemy from capitalizing on its early territorial gains. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned in the initial phase, the Indian forces were able to secure Sopore, reclaim Tragam, and establish a firm defensive presence in Handwara and its surrounding region. Their ability to counterattack swiftly, regain control of critical towns, and secure supply routes proved crucial in denying the enemy deeper access into Kashmir Valley and Srinagar. Throughout February and March, Indian forces successfully repelled repeated enemy offensives, including a major assault at Kupwara, and executed high-risk operations such as night raid at Bethadar. This led to the capture of enemy equipment and personnel. The final consolidation of Shulur in March through combined action of Sikh and Gurkha troops marked the culmination of weeks of sustained and strategically synchronized operation. Strategically, the Handwara sector held immense importance. It served as a gateway between the valley floor and the high mountain passes leading to Titwal and beyond. Control over this region was essential not just for territorial security but also for enabling further operations towards Uri, Titwal, Skardu axis, which became central to Indian Army's summer campaign planning. The creation of Zulu Brigade and the reassignment of key battalions to this front reflected the High Command's recognition of Handwara as a vital operational and logistic node. Crucially, Indian forces were able to exploit several key weaknesses in enemy's organization and tactics. The raiders, while numerically strong, were loosely organized with no central command and a tendency to disperse in small autonomous groups. Their logistical dependency on local supplies and their fear of attacks on rear communication lines left them vulnerable to sudden encirclement and night raids. The Indian forces capitalized on these weaknesses through surprise maneuvers, flanking patrols, and night operations, forcing the enemy to retreat repeatedly, often leaving their equipment and supplies behind. Moreover, the enemy's reliance on natural choke points such as bridges and narrow valleys made them predictable. Indian units leveraged superior planning and local intelligence to anticipate bottlenecks and block escape routes as seen during the Vadapur and Pathandar operations. Their reluctance to hold ground once surprised and poor coordination during retreats allowed Indian forces to advance steadily without facing prolonged resistance. In essence, the Handwara operations showcase the operational maturity of Indian Army in high altitude irregular warfare. Indian Army secured a strategically critical region. It stemmed the tide of incursions and set the stage for further offensives, all while maintaining morale, discipline, and civilian cooperation under difficult terrain and harsh winter conditions. It was just not the tactical victory, but strategic inflection point in the defense of Jammu and Kashmir in 1948. With this, I come to the end of today's episode. You requested to please share, like, and comment. Keep working hard. Jai Hind.